So we've just finished a fantastic session here in NHS Tameside talking about how do we create a really positive environment and how do we create really high performing teams within these positive environments even when we're working in really challenging and stressful circumstances. So one of the things that we've been talking about is this wonderful body of research called psychological safety, and we always reference the absolutely wonderful Amy Edmondson with her definition of psychological safety, which is a belief that one will not be punished, humiliated or penalised for contributing ideas, asking questions or making mistakes, and that the team is safe for interpersonal risk taking. So what does all that mean, and how on earth do we create environments where we can step into this psychologically safe space? And for that we're going to reference the wonderful work of Timothy Clark. And what Timothy talks about is the fact that in order to get us to this psychologically safe space, then we can start stepping in through 4 levels of psychological safety. First level of psychological safety is what's known as inclusion safety. So no matter whether you're in a team of 2 or 102, that everybody feels welcomed into that team, no matter who you are, what your experience is, what your background is, and there will be no discrimination of any kind. And what we need to remember as human beings is we gravitate to people that are like us. We move towards the people that we've got things in common with. But in doing so, as we're walking towards those people, what we often don't realise we're doing is we're accidentally turning our back and moving away from people that are most different to us. We really need to catch ourselves. We really need to look and reflect, are we including people within our teams? Because most of the time when we exclude people, we don't realise that we're doing it by accident. Are we making sure that everybody's voice is heard? Because if you're anything like me, you like to hear the sound of your own voice, and if there's an awkward silence, you fill that space. But it's the quiet ones that quite often have the best ideas. But if we don't invite them into the conversation, then are we going to hear their wonderful ideas? So how do we make sure within our teams that everybody is genuinely welcomed and genuinely included? So once we've got our inclusion safety, the next level of psychological safety is what we call learner safety. Now, everybody can remember their first day on the job. You don't know everything, you're not expected to know everything, but we are constantly learning. So how do we create environments that no matter how long you've been here for, no matter what your job title is or your seniority, that it's okay to go, I've no idea what I'm doing, that it's okay to ask for help. Maybe you're just having a bad day, and maybe you're just struggling to do whatever you're trying to do on that day. That's okay. How do we create psychologically safe spaces where it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to ask for help, and going alongside that, that actually we begin to get comfortable with asking for feedback. If we're being really honest, how many of us ask for feedback on a regular basis? And I can bet most of you out there are thinking, sometimes it depends, but in reality, the majority of us don't feel comfortable stepping into that space. But when we've got a really positive psychological safe space, we create an environment where we actively encourage giving feedback and asking feedback. So now we've got our inclusion safety, we've got our learner safety, now it's time to step into what we call contributor safety. And this means that, a bit like what I was saying before, we ensure that every voice is heard in that team, that everyone feels comfortable to come forward with ideas, to talk about, ask questions, whatever that may be. Everybody has a voice. We as human beings have this innate sense of needing to belong. So we need to include people, and once we feel that sense of belonging, we need to make sure that they've got the opportunity to contribute with the skills, the ideas, the value that people bring to the team. And the other wonderful thing about inclusion safety is to ensure that when we don't have teams made up of people all of the same background, of the same opinion, the more diversity we have in our teams, the better. And that's when contributor safety becomes even more important, because unfortunately what we also know is that underrepresented groups often are voiceless. So sometimes we need to really step into that space and ensure that everybody in our teams are heard. And then the final level in psychological safety is what we call challenger safety. And these are the discussions that people find most uncomfortable. But when you have true psychological safety in your team, you are more than comfortable challenging the ideas or the decisions in a nice, kind, caring, respectful manner with your peers, with your managers, even people of seniority. Because sometimes we're all human, sometimes we don't get it right, and sometimes maybe we've done the same thing the same way so many times that we get into that habit. Maybe there's some brand new staff member who's got a fantastic idea, and unless they challenge your idea, then maybe we won't get to hear that wonderful contribution that they may have. So if we really want to create positive environments where psychological safety is high, then we need to ensure that everyone's included, that we have a no blame culture where learning is really encouraged. We need to make sure that everybody's voice is heard and everybody gets an opportunity to contribute, and we need to learn to get comfortable with challenging each other respectfully.